incredible advocate in her own right. Representative Figures has worked in the Senate, in the White House, all around different administrations, and we have been so lucky to work with him along the way. Alabamans, all Americans, are so lucky to have Representative Figures in Congress. Congressman, we look forward to hearing from you.
It's weird to be called Congressman. Being a former congressional staffer, but thank you for the warm introduction. The strongest women in my life left out. That's my 3-year-old, my 1-year-old. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for coming to Montgomery. By show of hands, who's first time? Oh wow! I should ask the question the other way around. But this is a very special place. This is, when you, I grew up about 2.5 hours south of here. But you always know what Montgomery is, and I knew it because my parents were both in the state legislature at one point or another. And it's hard to believe that so much happened in what you are seeing when you pull into the city. I'm a little bit late getting here today because I scheduled got all thrown off because of the fact that we had to host a press conference around Doge and the Trump administration listening to So I apologize for being late, having to eat and run, as they say, but it was important for me to be here because it was a good reminder. It just kind of shows you how God works in sometimes, because we think of civil rights history and you know of all of the people, particularly the African American leaders that helped usher us through that part of time. But in diving a little bit into the freedom rides, just refreshing myself on the freedom rides, we talk about the fact that when that bus left Birmingham and got here to Montgomery, they were escorted by cavalry of sorts of the Alabama Highway Patrol that abandoned them when they hit the city limits of Montgomery. And when they got to the bus station, because law enforcement knew what was there, the mob, which was predominantly Klansmen and Klan sympathizers, they took particular time to beat the white people who had joined them and nearly killed them, including an official that was helping to escort them from the U.S. Department of Justice. And that was symbolic of the fact that the movement, the civil rights movement, at its core, was certainly one that kicked off with a lot of brave men and women here in the South, a lot of brave Black men and women. But it grew and it embodied support for people all across this country, people from all different races, backgrounds, religion. See Rabbi Eshu up there marching at the front, like it's symbolic. Mind you, and you guys being here and what you guys stand for and what you do, coming from around the country and different backgrounds, it's very refreshing to see that spirit still lives in the understanding of why it's important to be here and what we need to do together to preserve the advancements that we have made. Because we're seeing a consolidation of power that, quite honestly, is symbolic of consolidation of power that we once saw in Germany. We're seeing a minimizing of the federal government and scope that is also very similar historically to what happened then. But the thing we know is how that ended up. And therefore we can take those lessons to pump the brakes. And that's what we are attempting to do every single day.
Thank you.
Right? Like we don't have the numbers that we need to stop things. I'm still learning. I've made mistakes already. I've taken a vote or two that I regret already. But at the end of the day, the spirit remains the same in terms of what we have to stand up for and what we are there in Washington for. I am privileged and blessed to have that opportunity to be in DC. I mean, what happened here is the reason I'm there today. Honestly, the birthplace of the civil rights movement. If there was no Montgomery, then there is no Civil Rights Act, there's no Voting Rights Act, there's no Fair Housing Act. There is no me sitting here today because the district that I represent and the one that Terry Slow represents were both districts that were created out of Voting Rights Act challenge. So it all roads lead back to Montgomery. I personally think this is the single most important city in the world in the 20th century because of the fact that the greatest movement in the world, social movement that the world has ever seen was born out of. I'm not even from here, I said. Greatest thing that was born out of my hometown was Mardi Gras. It's a true fact, by the way. What I have is place of Mardi Gras. But we don't lose sight of that of being. And you know, it is only with the support of you guys and organizations like you and like-minded people who see that this is supposed to be a nation that is inclusive, that is supposed to be a nation that embraces the diversity, that is supposed to be a nation that builds upon the dark chapters that we've had to make us a stronger and brighter place. It's only through that collaborative effort that we can move forward as a nation. Because I still do have faith in this country. I have faith in this nation. I do. I have faith in what we can be and what we will be. Because we've seen so much worse. I mean, there was a time not too long ago that we're talking about where I literally could not, do certain things because of the color of my skin. And that's not where we are now, thankfully. We're not where we need to be. We're not at all where we need. So I sit here now, in too close proximity to it. I mean, I'm literally just, and this is gonna sound crazy when I say it. I know some people are gonna go like counting, but I'm 3 generational lines removed myself from slavery. And that is, how many people here have met their great grandparents? Right? Imagine, that generational line being a slave. And within 3 generations, we go from there to my father integrated University of Alabama's law school. He walked into Alabama's law school as the first of it was a group of 7. A group of 7 that went into law school together. My father, 2 others finished 3 years later. A couple got called over to Vietnam and finished later, but nevertheless, he took that law degree and would ultimately, as she alluded to, I ended up filing one of the more consequential civil lawsuits that this country has seen in the last century, which is a lawsuit that ended up bankrupting the Klan. But we know that it did not bankrupt their mission, because the mission, even what it led to, and in short, that story was
alive and well.
I'm sorry.
Alive and well.
So the mission is still alive and well, certainly in many, many respects. But that case at its core was this. A white police officer had been shot and killed in Birmingham, allegedly by a black man who was going to face trial. He moved the trial down to Mobile, Alabama, for a change of venue, for too much publicity around it. The jury in Mobile was a hung jury the first trial. And on the night of that hung jury, Klan met in Mobile and said, if a black man can get away with killing, he used different language, killing a white man, then we should be able to get away with killing a black man. And so they went out and they found the first black person they saw, which happened to be a 19-year-old kid, bouncing basketball down the street on Spring Hill Avenue in Mobile, named Michael Donald. And Michael Donald was on his way to buy a pack of cigarettes. And they kidnapped him and they beat him, they slit his throat, and then they lynched him directly across the street from the home of the then president of the United Klans of America. And my father, who was a local attorney at the time, was literally one of the first on the scene the next morning when word began to trickle out about it, and actually took a lot of pictures, including a picture of that Klansman standing, drinking his coffee, looking across at a lynched young man. And they sued. All of the people that were involved in the case ended up going to prison. One was executed. This was a pretty significant case, and one that has certainly defined the scope of my family history and something that I grew up under the shadow of, in terms of pushing me around down the pathway that I chose to ultimately do. But that mission that group of people had back in 1981 when they lynched Donald, that mission still drives a lot of what we're seeing in society today. So we all have an obligation to fight just as hard as they did back in the 80s to keep it going. And so I appreciate you guys being here to see that firsthand, where this movement started. So I'm happy to take a question or two if I got time. Happy to take one or two questions. I don't mind hard questions either. I'm not one of those guys. Don't give me a softball. Yes, ma'am. Bring it up.
Our question, Jennifer. Rob, I'm Lisa Wetterman from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Thank you for everything that you're doing. My question. My question is not a hard question, but it's one that I actually got to ask my congresswoman 2 nights ago. You are all working so hard, which is amazing, and we thank you. And I know from hearing Representative Raskin and others that you're all aligned and doing your best. What is the number one thing that those of us out here can do to support your efforts?
Yes, I think it's I know you asked for one. I'm not gonna give you two.
Great.
One, the one thing is we have to amplify our message within ourselves, and we have to get that message outside of our comfort zone, spheres of influence that we can still touch. What I mean by that is, like, you guys are all networked, like your personal networks, but we have to expand one layer up beyond our personal networks about spreading what this administration is doing. And that looks different for different people, but at the end of the day, you guys are the most powerful communicators through your network that's out there, right? That's not just you, that's everybody, right? Like, I am a more powerful communicator in District 2 than Keith Jeffers is, right? So it's up to us to drive that message home with local details about how this impacts you here at home. The second thing I would say is we have to remain unified, because whatever we say about Donald Trump, about the Republicans, about their agenda, all the things, one thing we cannot accuse them of not being unified.
That's right.
That unity, even when done for purposes that we do not agree with, that unity is powerful enough to drive victories. And we are a Big Ten organization. I get it. People have different thoughts about different issues. Certain issues are more important to them than other issues. But at the end of the day, we are not in a position where we can afford to let, isolated individual disagreements become the foundational principle by which you vote or don't vote, or vote for, a third person that can't win it. That's the part that I'm sticking on. And then also just understanding that we're like a football team. Not everybody throws the ball, not everybody catches the ball, not everybody blocks, not everybody tackles. Everybody has a different role. We have to have a different role, and people have to play their roles. And I think people have to be understanding of the roles, and that everybody can't do the same thing. Everybody couldn't, stand up and get kicked out of the State of the Union or the joint address, right? That's outrage role, right? But what we also can't have is everybody get mad at people who did leave out. We all have roles to play. That's a role certain people play. There are other roles for certain people. One of the, if you ever get the privilege, I don't know if you guys have gotten the privilege to hear Fred Gray speak. Fred Gray was a civil rights attorney. He defended Wayne Barnes and Martin Luther King. Fred Gray, I don't want to go so far as to say he was never arrested, but Fred Gray was not a frontline guy, because they needed Fred Gray when they got arrested, right? They needed Fred Gray so he wouldn't be conflicted out of being a witness in a case where he needed to be the counsel. That was his role. And so we have to be respectful of the roles that we need on the team and support every role.
Thank you.
All right, last question. He's giving me a real hard one.
New York.
My wife's from New York.
Way to Boston.
Oh.
My question, don't be surprised, nobody here, is that we want to support you, but we need leadership in order to support you. You meaning Congress, and some of us have been talking about sort of the COVID approach. Yeah. Why not every day at a certain time of the day, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it is, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I don't care. One of you are standing up every single day and talking about the lies that are being told to the American people. That's one, and then the other is a call to action by the Democrats. Hakeem, my city, we love them, but we need a call to action and to take a picture page out of our friends in Israel, when they were fighting for democracy, they still are, when 200,000 people would come out every Saturday night all over the country, which would be the equivalent of about 19 million. So we're looking for that leadership, and I'm just asking, is that being talked about?
So I will say, and I'll try to be quick on it. I will say that we do, right? They just happen to be on the most boring channel on television. You guys got it. We do. We go to the floor. And it's more than one of us, right? Like I try to do at least one floor speak a week. Since I've done it on the stupidity of trying to put conditions on aid to wildfire to California, knowing that we get hurricanes here. I've done it on the TPS restriction, that they were the TPS protections that they limited for Haiti. My wife's family from Haiti. I just last week I spoke on just the inhumane nature of and how just in amazement I was sitting in the joint session listening to Trump speak and seeing everybody on the Republican side stand up and high five and cheer when they're talking about like how many thousands of jobs that they're cutting, that they're going to cut, as if these jobs are just data points in like a spreadsheet that they're not real people. So we do it. Getting the coverage and the amplification, I think, is the struggle that we've had. So bigger conversations right now are how do we reach those people who don't go to traditional forms of media to get their media. And so we're working on that. We're going on a podcast. We're trying to localize that messaging. The other part about it, I would say, just like the mass protesting side of it is right. Is like what we're talking about now are the big national issues. Saving democracy, trust me, it's a great national issue, and one that I believe is very worthwhile to fight. But at the end of the day, I think one of the problems we've had as Democrats is, and I know this is it's nonpartisan organization, but one of the problems I think that we have is the loss of intentionality around localizing issues. And at the end of the day, like one of the reasons that I can't stand up or that I wouldn't stand up and protest and get kicked out of Congress is because I'm losing more hospitals in this district than you guys have probably lost in your home state since you've been alive. We have not expanded Medicaid in the state of Alabama. Right? I have 13 counties in my district. 7 of the poorest counties in the country and in the state are located in my district. The other 8 are probably located in Terry Sewell's district. Right? And so we still have to balance trying to be effective for the people that need us in this district. And that is, so that's a delicate dance, right? Like you don't want to be accused of not fighting hard enough, but you certainly can never be accused of not fighting and trying to get the victories for the people that actually sent you there. And that they still really need it, right? Because talking about democracy matters. But it's hard to talk about democracy to somebody who has to drive 45 minutes to a hospital.
That's right.
And, I think that just looks different for different people. And so, like, I'm not a big fan of a national messaging strategy. I believe the national messaging strategy works in some places, but I feel that the overall national messaging strategy needs to be, you need to figure out what it was that drove people to vote for you. What are those issues important locally? And you need to amplify that. If it's potholes in your street, you need to be convincing people that Donald Trump is cutting money and you're going to have less dollars to fix potholes in your street. And they are. The budget and everything that we're dealing with, we have to figure out ways to localize it. And I don't necessarily think that all of the messaging has to be the same, especially with how, dissected media intake is these days. But, I may be in the minority, and I'm not saying I'm wrong, right? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm right, but that's my view on it, is that we have gotten way too national and lost focus on the local impacts that a lot of these policies are going to have on people, and how we try to balance our position to actually try to bring resources home for that. Because I mean, we got areas in this district that you would think you were in a third world country. Like that is the reality. I mean, we have very, very poor people. I mean, can you imagine trying to rebuild your community or make your community thrive, or recruit a developer or a business, and that pitch begins with, we don't have a hospital?
Yeah.
And that's a real life thing here. I got places in this district that if you call an ambulance on a good day, they will tell you it will be 50 minutes before we get there. And these are not extreme stories. These are like realities of life of so many people in my district. And so, so I think there's a delicate dance and a balance that we have to try to strike. But I really think it's up to us as individual members of Congress to grind it out, roll up your sleeve, do the work of communicating with your own constituents, and not look for the safety net of Hakeem Jeffries or Kamala Harris or Chuck Schumer or whoever else to do that work for you. I think they can help amplify. That's my take.
Congressman. So while he's still here, I want to share something. I go back with Congressman figures. He might not remember this, but when Attorney General Loretta Lynch followed Attorney General Eric Holder, I met Congressman Ben Shabari, not Congressman, because he worked for Loretta Lynch. He worked for that strong woman, and so did I. I worked to get her confirmed. In addition to that, I worked for another friend of his, my old boss, Wade Henderson. And Congressman, Wade would say to you, it's not weird to be called Congressman. You deserve to be called Congressman. I'm not going to stand between you and your need to lie down. I'm going to say who I am. I'm going to tell you a few things that are important about tomorrow, and then I'm going to leave you with a poem. Okay? It's not going to take long, I promise. I'm Ellen Buckman. I'm NCJW's Chief Field Engagement Officer. It's delightful to be here with you, to see you. So many of you that I've met on Zoom and only on Zoom are now here in person, and that's a wonderful thing. So it's terrific. Just for a few minutes, harken back to this morning. Harken back to the Memorial for Peace and Justice. The Memorial for Peace and Justice. Harken back to the Legacy Museum. Harken back to the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park. Harken back to Michelle and the mothers of gynecologists. Harken back to my phone ringing right now. That is my phone. I apologize. Okay. Y'all, think about what we have done today and the sacred spaces together in community that we have experienced. I hope it fills you up. I hope it reminds you that our past in those markers wasn't that long ago. And I hope it tells you that, in the words of Congresswoman Terry Sewell, persistence and consistency matter. And that is up to NCJW to remember. So let's hold those memories, let's think about them, and let's take them to tomorrow. And that's my role right now, to tell you a little bit about that. So tomorrow is the Selma Jubilee Bloody Sunday commemoration. A few of you have asked me, what do you know about this word Jubilee, Ellen? Well, I can tell you that the word Jubilee stands for joy. And to a lot of people in the African-American community and in other communities, joy is a form of resistance. This commemorative activity has been called a Jubilee for a very long time. It's because it's a day in which Bloody Sunday and the memories that we have been talking about all day are imposed as joy in being, yes, American. That's what this day is about. And so I'm here to say, and just to remind you, you probably already know this, that it's a powerful day. It's a celebratory day, and it's a that's what you should expect. And you can make that into whatever you want, but that is the intentionality of the day. The event is deeply emotional. deeply emotional, especially for those who have that personal or historical connection, as we've been talking about. It's intergenerational. I was at the 50th anniversary that Congresswoman Sewell talked about, and when I was there, I experienced how youth came to the greatest degree that I have ever seen in my life. So it's intergenerational, and be proud of the generations that you represent, their friends, because we should continue in that vein. Again, it's sacred ground. The Edmund Pettus Bridge is sacred ground. There'll be people praying. There'll be people kneeling down. There'll be people holding hands. There'll be people singing. It is a sacred marker of what happened. It is also, in the words of my dear friend and mentor, Heather Booth, a place where action needs to be taken. And so there'll be people there marching and calling for action, usually about the right to vote and the right to never let our democracy be taken from us. And for a lot of people, friends, the word democracy is meaningless. So it'll be about framing, and I've done a lot in my work around framing. So it'll be about that, and it'll be about the sort of sensitivities that I tried to remind you on that prep call that we should try to remember, the intentionality. There will be, represented here, an interfaith presence. Also an incredibly beautiful thing about this day that I've experienced. And that will be representative of all faiths. And it's a beautiful thing. I'm not a crowd person, so I'm already gearing up for my anxiety prep, which I have. There will be a lot of people there. So if you're like me, do what you need to do to get ready for that. Hold yourself, take breaks, figure out spaces and places and a person's hand to hold. I get anxiety in crowds. I will be doing all of that. Just know it's a very friendly crowd, but it'll be a lot of people. Also know, and I was talking to somebody at dinner about this, there will be heightened security tomorrow. There will be heightened security tomorrow. I'm not trying to stand you and scare you. I have done due diligence and checked in what we can expect. I have been told by people in the know that we should not worry about it, but we should not be stupid. Okay? So just know that. There will likely be security pass-throughs in multiple places. You might have to go through more than one metal detector. There will likely be long lines. There will definitely be street closures, and there will definitely be a lot of law enforcement. It's going to be hyper secure. Again, as I said before, there will be moments of silence and prayer, and there will be moments for you to call out. And please feel like you are included and that you can. It's a community. And again, a Jubilee, which calls for a community of joy and a community of celebration of what? Democracy, and that everyone belongs to it, which is what this day is about. And that's what Mr. Lewis would want. He would want everyone to remember it in that way. And then finally, there'll be a lot of traffic. So I know that Rachel, in all her ways, will remind us of the things that we need to remember, what happens if we get separated, what to do, all of those things. The logistics really matter. So if you need to write them down and stick them in your pocket where you're supposed to meet and what the address is of the temple, which is where we're going, please do. I'm not trying to freak you out, but just be smart about it. Make sense? Great. Okay. I promised a poem, but before I get to my poem, I want to share something that came to me in my wonderful, bank of memory for the civil rights community today. When I sat in that reflection room museum and I saw a picture of my old board chair, Dr. Dorothy Iron. When I worked at the leadership conference for 15 years, I got to work next to her for 10 of those 15 years. And one of the things that I want to share, she was one of the funniest people as well as one of the smartest strategists. But one of the things that I want to share that Dr. Knight would say when she would run board meetings of the Civil Rights Coalition, leaders of civil rights organizations, about 50 in the room, was imagine how much we could get done if everyone in this room would check their ego at the door. That's what she would say. She would remind us of that. And so I'm saying this to you just to know that if all of us can heed a little bit of that to make this country a better place, we will. We will, because of the power of this organization and the power of each of us. So I wanted to share that Dr. Haidt memory, and now I'm going to pivot to my poem, and then I will leave this podium. So this came to me shortly after the election, and I often read poems to my staff. They can attest to that. And people participate in reading them with me. I'm not going to ask anyone to come up here and do that. I'm just going to read it to you. And they already know this, so you'll recognize it, some of you. And it's by a woman by the name of Shalon Harkin. They've seen it. It's when the earth shakes and foundations crumble that our light is called to rise up. It's when everything falls away and shakes us to the core and awakens all of our hidden ghosts that we dig deeper to find once inaccessible strength. It's in times when division is fierce that we must reach for each other and hold each other much, much tighter. Do not fall away now. This is the time to rise. Your light is being summoned. Your integrity is being tested, that it may stand more tall. When everything collapses, we must find within us that which is indomitable. Rise and find the strength in your heart. Rise and find the strength in each other. Burn through your devastation. Make it your fuel. Bring forth your light. Now is not the time to be afraid of the dark. Thank you.
So, just breakfast will be from 6:15 to 7:15 back in the same room, the Birmingham room at the Birmingham Marriott. You can eat anytime between 6:15 and 7:15. You need to be seated in the room, ready for our framing for the day at 7 a.m. And then at 7:15, we'll board the buses, the same schedule as this morning. Remember, again, for tomorrow, that anything you need for the full day, you should bring on the bus with you. We will not be back in Birmingham until late Sunday. But as Ellen mentioned, security will be tight. We want you to pack even lighter tomorrow than you did today. And then anything that you need to carry in a backpack, as we told you all, needs to be in a clear backpack. There will not be bags allowed through security that are not clear. You will still be able to leave things on the bus, but you won't be at the bus, on and off the bus like you were today. You really won't have access to it for the full day. But you did today, leave things. We expect metal detectors, as Ellen mentioned, and they could be multiple times. So less metal, like metal belts, things like that, we recommend leaving back at the hotel. Dress casually and comfortably, as we did today. We would love for you to wear the NCJW shirt if you'd like. This is a big announcement. In fact, I had 4 people remind me that I should make it. Tonight is daylight savings time. I have tried to, many people have tried to explain what this means to those of us that live on the East Coast. I don't know if I'm gaining sleep or losing sleep, but I know that you need to know what. I believe. Make sure you are not using a clock that will not shift automatically. And please, with love, do not rely on the hotel to do a wake-up call for you. I'm sure they will get a lot of requests and not do them in the right time. So please use your cell phone alarm or whatever you need that will change automatically. Don't miss the bus because you don't know what time it is. Please. Tomorrow, when we do the bridge crossing, we will get to Selma and we will have a second breakfast. We're doing 2 breakfasts because the bridge crossing is actually right around lunchtime. And so we will have lunch available at Temple Mishkan Israel for the whole middle of the day, 12 to 3:30, but we want you to eat at the Birmingham Marriott and then again at Mishkan Israel so that you can make it through lunch if you want to stay down at the bridge crossing as opposed to come back to the shul and pick up your lunch. Does that make sense? We do not expect such a large contingent, especially when we have more folks join us, that all of us will be able to stay together. So we're going to leave Mishkan Israel together. Mishkan Israel is about a 4-block walk to the bridge. So we'll leave Mishkan Israel and we'll walk to the bridge. We don't imagine after that we will stay together, but please make sure you stay with a buddy or a small group and that you stay in close contact with your pod leader. You will have about 4 hours down at the bridge to listen to the speeches, cross over. And remember that once you cross over, you also have to cross back. So it's about 3/4 of a mile from Mishkan Israel to the opposite end of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And then you also have to cross back. So you're talking about, it's not math, 1.5 miles. I'm a logistics, but not math person. and so make sure that you're prepared to do both of those things, but you can stay down at the bridge and things like that. We don't expect there to be a ton of seating, et cetera, et cetera. However, anytime in that window, you're more than welcome to go back to Mishkan Israel again to pick up your lunch, or even if you just need to rest, some water, a snack. And we have access to both Mishkan Israel, which is the actual shul, and you'll see like a pink house right across the field. We have access to both for just like taking a breath if you want to take a breath. And again, that's only about a 4-block walk from the bridge back to Mishkan Israel. Yes, bathrooms. Yes, I would not recommend leaving your things inside Mishkan Israel. No, you can leave things on the bus, but I would not recommend leaving things in the actual building. Cell phone service is going to be a little bit bad because there's a lot of people in a city that doesn't have a ton of tech already, to be honest. Yeah. The weather is looking good. I can't believe I know this. 20% chance of rain. There's 20% chance of rain for about midday. We should be okay. We will still have ponchos, lots of ponchos. All right. Yes. We will have the disposable water with you. I do not recommend bringing reusable water bottles past after you get off the bus.
You can take.
Yes.
We don't like that, but they will take metal bottles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any, yes, any, the trash.
I just want to reinforce your point, Rachel, about having a buddy and staying in your pod.
Yes.
Because if in fact we get separated or something happens, we need to watch out for each other.
Amen.
And so we should all just be really aware of